Colorado was formed as a state in 1876, 100 years after the United States declared its independence and formed a constitutional republic. The great state of Colorado took shape with the added strength of 100 years of experience. Have you ever read the Constitution of Colorado? Do you know your rights and duties? This overview presentation describes one man's and one family's awakening to the truth that the liberties of the citizens of the people of Colorado have been systematically replaced with the abusive power of tyranny through a police state. Before we begin, let's take a couple minutes and sit back and listen to the Colorado State Song. Before we define a constitutional republic, it helps to define a democracy. We are inundated through the popular press with the belief that we live in a democracy. However, nothing could be further from the truth. A democracy is defined by majority rule, also known as mob rule. The fact is that our founding fathers condemned and deplored a pure democracy. It is interesting to note that the term democracy is not mentioned once in either our Declaration of Independence or in the Constitution of the United States. While we do have democratic processes that ensure a representative form of government, we should all be very thankful that we are not living in a democracy. One simple example of the absurdity of a true democracy is the parable of 3 wolves and 1 sheep voting on what's for lunch. The singular sheep does not stand a chance. He is lunch. A constitutional republic is a state where the head of state and other officials are elected as representatives of the people. So we have a representative form of government, and the election process is a democratic process that does express the will of the people, and must govern according to existing constitutional law that limits the government's power over citizens. Now that's a key phrase, limiting the government's power over citizens. The government is not a monarchy or an oligarchy that has absolute control. In a constitutional republic, executive, legislative, and judicial powers are separated into distinct branches, and the will of the majority of the population is tempered by the protections for individual rights, so that no individual or group has absolute power. In this way, the singular sheep is protected from being lunch by the Constitution that says we all have a right to live. The fact that a Constitution exists that limits the government power makes the state constitutional. Now, that's fairly obvious, but I think we're missing it in our current era, where we have a government that's consistently undermining the protections in the Constitution through the use of fear. That the heads of state and other officials are chosen by an election rather than inheriting their positions, and that their decisions are subject to judicial review, makes a state republican. Now notice when we use the word Republican here, we're not talking about the Republicans versus the Democrats. We're talking about a notion that dates all the way back to the time of Rome and really talks about how you have a representative form of government. So in a constitutional republic, we are all protected by our Constitution. And the fact that we have a republic where we have checks and balances between the different branches of government is supposed to provide us with some inherent self-stabilizing functions. Now, when the executive takes over control over the different branches, we lose those checks and balances. And as now we have a Congress that's rubber stamping everything that the president wants to do. And frankly, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I've lost hope in the two-party system. To me, it's a puppet master controlling two different puppets. They're not really different organizations. So it doesn't matter to me if we're talking about George W. Bush or Barack Obama. The problem is the same. We have a strong executive branch and a weak congressional branch, and we seem to have a judicial branch that doesn't review anything that the executive branch is doing. So we have a broken constitutional republic, but the idea of the constitutional republic was unique. The United States was founded on unique principles that were supposed to ensure the liberty and the prosperity of all of us and our posterity for generations to come.